Hello lads, today we are back in the 3x3 world and we're going to be continuing the tutorials on every single smallest fastest 3x3. So we've already covered everything 0.4 seconds opening and slower, so we're going to be moving on to the 0.25 seconds opening 3x3s. And a lot of these are going to be, or the next few are going to be 0.25 seconds opening and 0.4 seconds seamless with various different closing times according to their size. Because at this point the closing time is kind of important, because quite literally some of these have slower closings than openings, such as this nice one by Brickcrafter. This is 165 blocks and is 0.25 seconds open and 0.4 seconds seamless. Use a really clever layout. This is really cool. It's just where are the pulses come from. This one is just min-maxing the opening speed. Anyways, let's get just started with this one right here. So the materials you're going to need are in this chest right here. This is just for setting up the two minecarts, and these water buckets will be going in dispensers. And these leaves can be any leaves. So yeah, you need an 11 by 15 tall area. And let's just grab some quartz and stuff. Alright, so your door frame is going to be shifted one to the left, right? And also it's going to be 2 blocks off the ground. So you're going to have 2 blocks of wiring on the left side of your door frame, and then 4 on this side, 2 underneath, and then 8 blocks on top. So it's a very tall boy kind of door. So this layout is actually really clever. Basically, we're just going to pretend that this normal piston is right here for now, as it kind of is. Then we have this right there, 2 pistons like that, 1 sticky like this, normal piston like this, that pushes down this fold, and then this right here. Notably, there's no piston right here. And then 2 on the bottom, and then 3 on the side like so. So how this layout actually works is actually quite interesting. So you push down, oh, there's also a normal piston right here. So you push this stuff down, and then these get pushed in like whatever, nobody cares. And then we have this thing unfolding like that. Then for the first pulse, we have this chain right here. And then for the second pulse, we have this chain right here, as well as this chain right here. And then for the third pulse, we have this chain and that chain. And then that makes it seamless. And this normal piston has to get moved up 1 right there. So moving on, your input block is going to be up here, and then this one is going to have to be a non-solid block like glass right here. And your input is going to be right here. That just powers this one. But we also want to power this thing to go down, so place a solid block here, and then we have a dust line like this. And that is your input line. And we also need to have a activator rail here for later. So that pushes this down, and then we'll get onto the closing of this thing later, because right now we're just going to get the 3 block event for this. So to get this 3 bed chain for this thing right here, we're going to have a sticky piston right here, right? And then I'm just going to grab blue blocks, because that's what Brickcrafter did. Blue glass. There we go. And then a dust right here, normal piston, sticky piston with redstone block like that. Grab a note block. I don't need this button. Note block right here, dust, then an observer facing this way for later, and then a glass right here, and then a solid block right here. And this won't be any kind of problem for later, so I'm just going to place an obsidian here for now, temporarily, just to show this off. Right there. And see, that does our first chain if I were actually placing the obsidian in the right spot. There you go. That's just the first chain. I'm just going to move this back up. And now we're going to kind of get all this stuff for getting like the chain for 6 bed right here, and also closing this and that is kind of like all really interconnected. So I'm going to focus on closing this thing first. We're going to have a piston with redstone block right here, and then we're going to pull it away with this thing right here. And the way we're going to do that is actually this little circuit right here. And what's going on here is when this thing powers, this thing will get a 3 game tick pulse, not a 2 game tick pulse, because this observer schedules before this one, so this block leaves this one on. Then, yeah. So what this is going to do right now is, for the closing, you'll see, well, not yet. We have to do a little funny business for the closing real quick. And what we're going to end up doing is have a note block here, and an observer right here. And to stop this thing from repowering, we're just going to have a normal piston right there. So you can see it kind of powers like this, and this thing powers early. And then before this thing gets a chance to repower itself, right, kind of does this. And since this redstone block right here kind of goes like this piston doesn't like update itself on arrival like that. Anyway, we kind of missed something. Oh goodness gracious. Just place like an immovable here for right now or whatever. We also need one like there. We have a really large slider on this side that both kind of does the closing and also the 6 bed chain for this right here. So I'm going to quickly set that up. Well, it's not going to take, it's going to take a million years, so it's not going to be quickly whatsoever. But anyways, we need a huge slider right here, and it's going to span from like all the way up here, I think. No, I lied. It's going to be from here. And then it's going to go all the way down here. So we need 2 minecarts, and the first one is going to be like resting right here on an observer, like so. The second one's going to be here. So we're going to do that one first. Just grab your wall. I said wall. Okay, cool. So this kind of thing. Grab a lamp. We're going to need that anyway. Oops. Grab your 2 carts. And that's luckily all the cart nonsense we're going to be needing for this door. So delete all that. And then we're just going to put all this stuff back. Yeah, I know that doesn't have to be 0 ticked in. Leave me alone. Then we're going to have 2 dust right here to close the bottom part. And we're going to have a stained glass right there. And then a cauldron right here to stop this from moving back when the piston retracts. We have this thing right here. And then when you place the rail right here, you can see both of these kind of retract themselves. And we need a note block right here for this piston. And we also are going to need an observer right here to spit this block right here, because that doesn't get powered when this thing pushes down so far. And then we also need this right here to, when this thing gets pushed down, this will power that and moves this in. Need a redstone block right here for later, and then a block right there. And that is our entire really long slider. And how we're going to power this thing is from a block update using this dust right here. And we're going to have a redstone block right there. And that's going to make it go down on the closing. And we're going to have a slider over here that kind of resets that thing like this. And then we're going to have a note block right here that detects this instrument change. And then 2 observers, no, 1 observer, my bad. And then a copper bulb, then 2 more observers, then a block, and then a copper bulb. And that's just kind of, and that is kind of just going to move this out of the way on the opening, so, or on the closing, so this thing doesn't stay like perma-powered. So we can kind of just look at that happening. So you can see it does that, and then on the opening, it just kind of repowers this at the right time. And it actually does something for this too, which I'll explain later. And you can see also all this stuff closed properly without needing any additional immovable objects. So let's just kind of open this and watch it disintegrate. You just need to push that up and kind of leave it like this. Now that thing is butted, and then kind of place this here. Oh my god. So move that back up. Then put this back in. Then this thing back in, and then push this back up. So how we're going to use this to get the 6-bed chain to this piston right here is we're going to have a note block right here. So when this redstone block is down on the closing and then it moves up, we're going to have this thing be butted to turn on, and we're going to have a dust right here. And this is going to get updated by the rail. So this is going to push, and then this will get turned off with more than enough bed right here. And how we're going to do that is just have a long redstone block chain across the bottom. We're going to have this thing right here, thin glass with a redstone dot, and then just a whole bunch of sticky pistons like that, and then a note block like so. And this kind of has to get re-extended so it doesn't update shit on the closing. So how we're going to do that is just re-extend this redstone block using that. So you can see then it'll get re-extended on the opening and then it won't screw up on the closing. So that's nice. So now we have considerably more of the door. So you can see we also have this thing being closed, but what we actually have to do is we have to kind of spit this thing back out again. So you can see we have to kind of update this at the right time. And then this thing will retract, right? And then we're going to have this right here with an observer right there, and that's going to push this in. And then we're going to re-update this by re-toggling the slider. So we're going to like toggle the slider, right? And then update this, and then put this back. Then that is going to set up for the bud right here. So this thing is like still powered. Then let me just place this back. And then we also are going to have a block right here. And anyway, we're going to have a block right there in dust, and that's going to update this thing to turn off at 3 game ticks. And yeah. And then also you'll see that we have this thing extending. This redstone block will arrive here at 2 game ticks, and then we'll power this at 3. And then we are also going to retract this thing at 3 with some bed by having this normal piston right here. And then when this drags back, this thing will power this, and then this will cause a chain, and it will update this with more block event. And then we have the rail here to update it. Let me just quickly move this back around so I can actually demonstrate TS. Ugh, goodness. Everything about this door is insane. Anyway, so that should be a lot of the opening already done. So there's that. We already got this chain, and this thing pulls in. Then all we really have to do is make it so this piston retracts to do or make it so this piston right here retracts this block. So this thing can then pull this up, and then we can get this thing to push this across, and then this thing to move this back up. So all we really are missing is this right here, and we're just going to simply get this by doing that. And before we close it again, we're just going to get the slider thing again by doing a little bit of some tomfoolery. So we need the slider to go back really late, so we're going to have this right here, and this right here. And we have to have a kind of dispensary thingy with water in it and leaves, because what's happening is this thing will get like a double pulse when this thing goes back and forth again, and we have to make sure it like ignores that double pulse. And then grab a water bucket, just put that in there, I guess, and then just make this thing empty. So there we go. And then finally, to update this thing at the right time when this thing goes away, we're just going to have another dispenser here with a water bucket and another leaf, like so. And that will get updated when you place the leaf. So now, this thing will get the first pulse when this thing grabs back, and then we'll get a second pulse when this thing turns on, and then it will turn off again, and then this thing will go back on, and then it will get this ready for the update. And then this thing will like ignore the pulse because it already is, because the dispenser kind of stifles pulses. So then we can see that we have the entire opening, yay! And then we just have to get the seamless move. So we need to do this, have a 0 tick, and then this one have any pulse that's scheduled really late. So to get the 0 tick, it's actually quite simple. We're going to be using an observer right here that gets pulled back, and then doing a pseudo 0 tick right here from 5 to 6. And then this right here is going to do the pulse at 6 to remove the observer. Oh no, to remove the observer, and then we just have this updating it. So yeah, that's going to update it with some bed, and then this thing will do a 0 tick pulse. And then finally, we need some tomfoolery over here to get this thing scheduled really late. So we're going to have this right here and this, but that's not like enough, so we need these 2 pistons right here. And what this is going to do is it's going to, this piston right here is going to get turned on from, this is going to get updated by this thing to turn on when this thing lands here at 3, right? And then at 4, this thing is going to push away, and this thing is going to start retracting, but this thing is going to stay on until 6 because it starts its extension but never gets updated to finish the extension. And then at 6, this thing will retract, And then since this thing is going from 5 to 7, this solid block right here causes this thing to be butted. So then when this thing turns off, this thing will turn back on, and then it will update this with with a really high amount of bed because it's waiting for this thing to retract. So that will be enough to update this thing to move in. So now we can see this finally in action. Bang. So now that your door is done, if you just went through all the trouble of building a 2-move opening 3x3, you probably want like an instant input as well and not just a repeater into this block, which is completely understandable. So there's actually a really neat thing you can do here, is you can have a weird little sideways instant repeater. Oops. So 2 pistons like this. This one has a redstone block. This one also has a redstone block, but you need to make this a target. And then you can just push this back later, place a dust on there. So then you can have a piston right there, and then a target right there, and then you can just power this from wherever you want. I want my lever to be right there, for the sake of argument. So yeah, you just do this, and then your door is powered like that. So that's cool.